ahead and get started today. It's 12:03. Um, we've got a fun topic to tackle. Well, I guess fun, maybe fun's not the right word. We have an important topic to tackle today.
Very
We're going to be
important.
Right. We're going to be talking about creating space for school at home. I think most of us have probably been working through our various feelings about this. And regardless, we're all starting to move into the acceptance phase where we realize that at the end of the month, our kids are going to be doing school at home. And so how can we make that work? And as Debbie and I were talking about, we were planning out like a whole bunch, like a year's worth of coffee and curtains. And we thought about this, and we thought about our topic for the end of the month, working from home and setting up a workspace that works for you. We felt like these were, even though they're a little bit of a departure from our normal topics, that they would really be kind of a fun topic to just to kind of help us, figure out what we want to do and how we want to do it, and use some of our expertise from space planning. I mean, Debbie and I get to be in a lot of people's homes. We see how they do things, as well as get some thoughts and ideas from you guys as we go. So please use the chat feature in Zoom if you've got questions, comments, ideas, and let us know. And I'm trying to do like 20 things at once here, which is really fun.
Okay, so you're trying to do that, and my computer is not working, so I'm trying to do this on, my part of it on my iPad for the first time, and it's not really, I'm not finding what I typically find. But before we start, I want to say hello and welcome to Marilee, and I see Sherry and Maria, and I know that there's others, but for some reason, I'm Kelly, hello, and I know there's others, but I can't find the list. So anyway, Rebecca and I had an awesome time pulling this whole thing together, and what she was saying, we really did. We went through an entire year's worth of different presentations that we're excited to do for you. So this we thought was, like Rebecca said, an important one, not only for parents, but also for grandparents, because a lot of grandparents are going to be having to take over this homeschooling while the parents are working and while a lot of them are teaching. So, okay, Rebecca, take it away.
All right. And so we've got Debbie and myself, and then we hopefully our special guest will be joining us. She might pop in for a little bit. She's got a little bit under the weather, but
Rebecca, I'm here. Can you not see me?
Oh, there she is. Yay. She did it.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi,
welcome.
And this is Lindsay. She's our special guest today. Lindsay does design work, and she and I get to collaborate on fun projects with clients sometimes. And but she's also a school teacher, so that like really makes her like a super expert in this area.
Let's not get
So we're so happy to have her join us today, as we're kind of walking through all of this. So to get started, I just want you to like think back like last year at this time when maybe you were getting ready to send your kids off to school and you were worrying about a new backpack and a lunchbox and thinking, well, go get haircuts and buy a new outfit. Maybe you went out for a fun lunch that day, right? And school supplies and new shoes. And this year, as we are into these last few weeks before August, I think it's probably feeling different for all of us. And what does that mean, and how is that going to be different? And one of the things is, because we're walking into the unknown a little bit, it might mean taking some of those things off the list that were so important before going into the start of the school year so that we feel less stressed, right? And I think there's ways to do that and still create fun and exciting moments for your kids going into the new school year. But just try to make life easier on you, and don't be so hard on yourself of making the start of the school year perfect for your kids, because there's unknown. So what is unknown? Like, we're still trying to figure out what school supplies are we going to need. We're still trying to understand what that day is going to look like. I think Lindsay she can shake her head and attest that what we did in the spring is not going to, we've heard, is not going to be the same as what we're going to do in the fall. And so we're just walking into the unknown, right? You may find that you need to bring in additional help or support in your home if you've got two full-time working parents, and then deciding where everybody's going to work when everyone's at home. So, it's not just the kids doing school at home, but maybe now you and your husband are both working from home. So there's a lot of things that we're all thinking about. And I put this hourglass here because we're all probably feeling a little bit of pressure at this point here in August to get all those decisions made and feel confident about how we're going into the school year before. For us here in Montgomery County, Maryland, it's August 31st. So, but I know everybody's staggering in at different times.
Now, in Maryland, you are full-time at home, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yep. And for us, right now it looks like it's part-time home, part-time at school. Okay. We've got 3 teachers in our family, and 2 of them also have children. And it's the big question, how are they, they're teaching part of the time, they've got the kids at home, then they're teaching at school, the kids are at school. And there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of unknowns, but really important is for the kids to be excited and for schooling to be taken seriously, because I think last year towards the end, because it was towards the end of the school year that everything happened, there was so much unknown. The schools didn't even know what they were doing. And so I think people really weren't taking it seriously. I know with a lot of the teachers were saying there were some kids that were showing up. There's others where the parents just didn't take any of it seriously. So you have to really get the kids excited and have a plan, and maybe not have it all today. It's a plan that you're going to have to work into, but this is your child's future. So there's nothing more important than to know how you're going to proceed.
Right. All right. And so we're really gonna, there's so many, like as Debbie said, there's so many different aspects to all of this, but we really want to focus today on making space for your school at home. And as we're doing that, and as we're having dialogue, and as you guys are sharing ideas and asking questions, want to make sure this is like a judgment-free zone, right? We all, in March when the world turned upside down, it turned upside down for all of us, but in different ways, because we're all dealing with different components. I think sometimes you could look at my family and go, well, gosh, she's got a 13-year-old that can help with the little one. She's lucky. And and I'm looking at it going, I'm working in and out of the home. My husband's full-time working, and my little one's little enough that she needs support. So we all have different components that impact how we look at this pandemic, how we deal with it. And those create different requirements and different challenges, and no 2 families are the same. But we think we have some ideas and some thoughts that are really going to help as we think about making space for school at home. Number 1 rule, too, to all of you moms and dads and grandmas and whoever out there, do not compare yourself to other people, and it does not have to be Pinterest worthy to work. At this point, we need something that's going to work. And if you have the time and the energy and you want to make it Pinterest worthy, go for it. But just know that either way, it has to be something that works. And we're hoping that today, what we get across to you are helping you with some tools to figure out what are the most important things to make that work just right for you. So what are the things that we need to consider? Where you're going to do the school in your home, right? So we all have different size, shaped homes. They form different functions. My business has taken over half of my home. So right there, that's yep. off the block. Where could we do this, and how can we make this work? Then what do you need to do school? So what are our needs versus what are the things we'd like to have? And I think that's really important to break those up again, so that it cuts down on our stresses and our challenges and our worries, is when I can break up what do I have to have to get started, and what would be the nice things to have, and then I can prioritize how I'm going to spend my money and my time getting us to that final solution.
It also helps relieve the stress a little bit. What you have to have is one thing, but what you'd like to have, you know, it'll be nice if it comes, but it doesn't have to.
Absolutely. All right. So where will we do school? So I'm going to just ask these questions kind of aloud without any answers right now. And then definitely want some input. I think Lindsay's got some really good ideas and thoughts around this. But, you know, when we're thinking about finding extra space in our home, do you have extra space, or do you have to take a room and have it do double duty? And, you know, there isn't probably a right or a wrong answer to any of those things, but we do need to think about it and how we're going to have it do double duty. Oh, whoops. And I skipped ahead because I'm playing with too many buttons here. All right. Is it important to you and them that they can walk away from that space and create separation between school and home? You know, I've worked from home for years. Being able to close a door and go out to my home and living space, there can be some real value to being able to do that. Do you need them to be in close proximity to you, or is it better if they have their own separate space? There's a lot to think about as far as that's concerned as well. And then, do you need to keep distractions down to minimum for you and or them? And I'm sure there are even more things that we could think about here. But Lindsay, let's talk for a minute. How do you feel about creating a space that the kids can create a little bit of separation between school and home?
So it's funny you ask. I have twin boys that are 7 that will be going into 2nd grade, but they're in Frederick County, and I teach 2nd grade in Montgomery County. So we still don't even have a sample schedule for Frederick County yet. We do, of course, have one, you know, that Montgomery County sent out. So we do know that it's going to be a full day of Zoom lessons with lots of built-in breaks. So we do need to think about, you know, I was thinking about the boys. They had desks in their room, and then when all of this stuff happened, I moved their desk and put them in the bonus room because I wanted them together so I could help them together. But now that I'm thinking they're going to be on Zoom with their teacher and I'm going to be on Zoom with my kiddos, I think we all need to be spread out. I think that's okay. So, you know, bedrooms are tricky because they have lots of toys in them sometimes. My first thought with 2 active boys is to have a space that is not distracting to them. So, you know, a place that doesn't have a bunch of toys and things like that. It does not have to be a large space. I was talking to Rebecca earlier in the week, and I had purchased for my own classroom flexible seating, which also, you know, parents know their kiddos best. So, you know, my boys would not be able to sit in an office chair that spins because they would be spinning. However, some people might be able to sit in that and it would be comfortable and they could just sit there all day and that would be great. So I was just thinking about having different seating for them and maybe even using it as a reward system. Like if they did all their work independently and they made great choices, you know, maybe they can sit in the beanbag chair the next day. As a teacher, I need them in a space where they aren't distracted and a space that has all of their items for them organized, because they're going to be transitioning from reading to math to writing to social studies. So I was trying to think what would be best. So I'm going to get the boys an organizational drawer system that it can be, you know, very inexpensive, you know, like Michael's, Amazon, the pull-out drawers, or I saw really great ones at IKEA, so that they can have a drawer per subject. So when their teacher, all right, you guys have a 15-minute break when you hear this bell, come back. So, and I'll talk about that in a second. They can come back and get out their whiteboard marker, their Eureka math book, and be ready to go. So I think it needs to be really simple, especially for little ones. Very simple, very organized, and just a place where they can focus. And for me, you know, some siblings might be great. Like you said, your 2 kiddos, your daughter is older, so maybe you do want them close so that she could help them and problem solve. But I think there's going to be less technology issues because they're going to be probably logging on just once in the morning.
Okay.
them walking away and taking their breaks and coming back and walking away and taking their breaks. So our goal as teachers is to need, minimal to no parent support throughout the day.
Right.
That we're going to be managing our students the same as we would in the classroom.
Yeah.
So as a parent, we're putting together a page right now of helper ideas, things to help you prepare for your kiddos, separated into categories, and this would include the perfect space for them. So, perfect space for Brody is going to look different than a perfect space for Emmy. So really, it's just what works for your family. It does not have to be a big, beautiful space. They don't need their own office like adults do.
Right.
You could use a lap desk from, Michael's, where they could sit on the floor and have their desk. All my second graders and first graders love those. And they like to sit on the floor. They're not old like me. And have their stuff spread out so they can easily get, their math book or their paper. So really knowing your kid and what works for them. And I think teachers will be communicating, being like, oh, that chair they tried out yesterday really wasn't great.
Right.
We have a different, do you mind putting them in a different spot? Try something different tomorrow so that they're more engaged. And I couldn't agree more, Debbie. We have to get them so excited. It's going to be really hard because we don't know our incoming class the way we did in the, in the spring. So getting them excited, kind of making, I call their desk at school their office. So, this is their own office. They're big kids. They get to, work all day like mommy and daddy.
Right.
That's awesome.
Getting them excited, having a space that's organized and non-distracting. So obviously like no TV around, no other device.
Right.
Well, and Lindsay, it's funny that you mentioned, going to work like mommy and daddy, because I know I used to tell my kids all the time, you're going to work just like we are, but with them going away to school, I don't think they really saw that. When they see mommy and daddy now working at home, and they're working at home at the same time, that may be a way of getting them to sit down and buckle down. We lead by example for our children. Absolutely. And that's really, and that'll be great for you to use that with your students. Like, okay, we're here to work today. Remember, we're at work just like mommy and daddy.
Yeah. Hey, let's spending the first week, like letting them each share where their office space is.
Cute.
Fun.
I love that idea.
Making it really cute and engaging and keeping them excited and engaged is really going to be key here.
Good. Let's talk a little bit more about proximity, because I will tell you, especially with the younger kids, I think that is challenging for us as parents to know the best way to handle that. In the spring, I remember at first kind of trying to put Emmy and I really close together, and then realizing really fast that it wasn't fair to the teachers, it wasn't fair to the other kids in the class to have me so close. And frankly, I don't have the time or the bandwidth to be on top of her all day. So, I moved around the corner where I could still hear. So if she, for some reason couldn't find a pencil that day, because even if they're in front of her, sometimes I could quickly provide help, but I wasn't so on top of it. Because I'll tell you, even as a parent, sometimes, my little one will get sort of stage fright when the teacher calls on her, right? And so then I'm sitting there thinking, oh gosh, all the other parents think my kid's the stupidest one in the class, right? Like, this whole like Zoom and proximity does create some challenges from a standard classroom setting that I think are worth talking about. What are your thoughts from a proximity perspective and where we should place them?
I had quite a few parents that sat right next to their kiddos. And I kind of felt like, oh, I don't want you to feel like you have to do this. I got this,
Right.
And so sometimes it's a struggle. Sometimes they say, oh, when a kiddo makes a bad choice, I'm the last person that ever sends a kid out of the room. Like, I want to handle it. We're a family. We're in my classroom. I want to take care of us and have that community. So I want those kids to realize I'm their teacher. They don't have to look to their parent every time I ask a question, like giving us that kind of, I can't think of a good word, not control back, but like
just some of that autonomy to be the teacher and to build that environment and that culture that you want to build in your classroom.
Yeah, and let them know I'm just going to send like positive email notes instead of handing out that note the first day. Their parents are going to get an email. Oh my gosh, your child's doing a great job. They're participating. They're, following this rule. Like, I just want them to feel like it's real school. So we're going to, really pump up the kids to get up, eat your breakfast, get out of your pajamas. We're not going to Zoom in our bed, all of those things. That's why I really discourage bedrooms.
Right.
Any space in the whole house that's, that's not a bedroom. And we were, Debbie, like you said, we were in crisis teaching in the spring. And we did not, many people were overwhelmed, rightfully so. Reading was not happening. Attendance wasn't being kept. So those things made us not maybe take it as serious as it is. And this is going to be a real year with real assessments. And, we really need to engage these kids and get them super excited. So in terms of sitting close to parents, I would personally, in my classroom, discourage that. After they, maybe help them log in first thing in the morning at 9 and really give them that responsibility.
Yeah, I think
I like the way
you said that, Lindsay, because I think showing them that we believe they can be responsible and they can do it. Like, there's just a lot that happens when you kind of show your kid that you trust them, right? And it's on them, and they need to work with their teacher, and they need to figure out kind of how to manage through their day.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I also liked what you said about bedrooms too, because we've been thinking a lot about it. We all probably, when we decorated our kids' rooms, put a desk in their space, right? If there was room, we probably did it, because then it's a space they can work on. But is that the right space for them to work on when they're at home all the time? And I would say if you can get away from the bedroom, it's probably best, because then that bedroom can still be their special little spot. When there's a break, they can run up to their bedroom and spend 10 minutes in their bedroom just decompressing a little bit and not feel like school is staring at them, just like we feel about work, right? Like, you need that separation.
Absolutely. And I think what parents will hear sooner than later, because we're coming up on the school year, so from the county, from the school, and definitely at our back to school nights, is these kiddos were given assignments and then we're like, we'll see you tomorrow. That's how it worked in the spring, because that was the structure and that's what we did. This school year, they're going to be working right in front of us. So they're going to, for example, if I give them an assignment, they're going to be doing paper and pencil right in their special office. And if they're like, oh, I forget what to do next. Oh, what did she say to do? Hi, Mrs. Norris, can you remind me, blah, 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 blah. They're going to have me right there at their fingertips.
Awesome.
They're going to, we're going to be coaching them through. We're going to be doing small groups. So they're going to have their teacher the whole time. Even, half the class might get a break at a different time, and then half the class might be meeting in a small group. But we're going to be on during the whole time that they have reading. They're not going to be, I'm not logging off and that they're expected to go do it themselves. And then that's when they probably stressed out mom and dad, because mom and dad are on a conference call and they couldn't remember what to do,
Right.
And that's stressful, because the boys were interrupting me. We didn't Zoom that much in the spring compared to a regular school day, and it gave me such anxiety because they were interrupting. I'm like, go away, stop. Why are you here? Why are you bleeding? Get away. I'll help you later. Like, kids just want answers right away. You know, they want to figure it out and do their work and do their best. So, their teachers are going to be there to help them. So I feel like parents need to understand it.
So Lindsay, exactly what you're saying about having it separated is, the teachers that I was speaking with, they like it separated also because you didn't want to have, say, control, but because they need to control the classroom. They need to control what the kids are doing, and they don't want the parents interrupting the classroom, saying, oh, I'm sorry, she doesn't understand this. If they have a question and they don't understand, they have to have the confidence to say to the teacher, I don't understand, or I can't find my pencil, or because they wouldn't have their parent there, if they were in school. So
Yeah.
I think it's really, really important. Easy to say. Now, I know, Rebecca, you're talking about, your 7-year-old, Lindsay, you've got twin second graders.
Yeah, 7.
I had 3 boys, and I have to praise all of their teachers, because my 3 boys are very active boys.
Right.
So I know they had their hands full. No teacher gets paid enough in my eyes.
Take good care of our kiddos.
but yes, I mean, some of the things that were stressed, from the teachers that I was speaking to is get them, like you said, get them up in the morning, eat breakfast, get dressed. They're going to work.
Yeah.
I'm using work now because of you, Lindsay. I agree with that. And that they need to figure it out.
Yeah.
How they're going to work with their teacher, which I'm happy that my boys are through.
All right, so let's move on to what are the things that we really need come, day one, and what are the most important things to have in this space, where in our kids' new office space, right? In their special office. I like how you called it a special office, Lindsay. That's what we're calling it from now on.
Okay.
So obviously, I think some sort of a desk or a table and a chair. I think, like you said, it doesn't have to be the executive desk with, an L shape. It doesn't have to be super fancy or anything, but
it
just
could be the kitchen table.
Something that they can sit at and that they have a chair. And I
for their Chromebook and for a workbook, that would be space for 2 items. A little cup with pencils, whiteboard and marker, things like that, just like they have a normal pencil box. I think is really important.
Yeah, I liked what you said too about with those standard school supplies, keeping them really organized. And we'll show you guys some different organization systems. But that was one of the things that we didn't do so great in the spring in my house is, Evie would do her work and then she'd throw it to the side, and then we'd come back the next day and she didn't know where to find things, or someone else had moved it. Just having a better and plenty of pencils, the whiteboard, having everything in a special spot so that she always knows where to find it. And Lindsay, for those parents that are listening and watching that haven't purchased school supplies yet, and we don't really know what that list is going to look like, I finally took my kids last week because they were starting to feel pretty anxious about school, and just, we masked up, and I think I went through a whole bottle of hand sanitizer, but it made them feel better just to get out and buy a few things. And feel like we were starting to prepare. I feel like we were starting to prepare for the school year. What are some of the school supplies that you think would be, kind of most helpful if you don't have a full list yet to buy?
So the lists are coming, and they look very similar to past lists, because I think all those things are important to have, your definitely your pencils, a dry erase marker, a pack of those, because we'll be doing, math on whiteboards. I can't remember. I'm reading so many emails back and forth from the county. So I think they're supplying a dry erase board, but I'm not positive. It wouldn't hurt to have, a dry erase board. We'll definitely get its worth this year. Sorry, the dog is. I would say that some sort of organizational, hold on, I had something I wanted to grab.
Okay.
Here that I bought, something that they use in a lot of classes. Of course, it's right here. Are these.
Oh, those are nice. Yeah.
They're just from Target, dollar aisle. And so we organize our guided reading books in there, but it's also great for their composition notebooks. So I would say a reading and a math composition book would be wonderful, because likely they'll be taking notes or doing extra practice in those.
Yeah.
And then these are the lap desk that I was talking about.
Oh, those are great.
Oh, that's fun.
It's just $5 and they can keep their pencils here, dry erase markers, whatever they're working on right here. They sit and they love it. It's like a nice lap desk there. So it's good for independent work if they want to take a break from the computer and go down to the floor to do their, Eureka book, or if they want to you know, I don't really.
That's such a great idea, because the truth of the matter is, even though we say it's really important to have a desk and a table and a chair, and we need them sitting there and focusing, they've
Sure.
got to have moments where they can get up, and because they're kids, right?
Yeah.
Where they can get up and they can sit someplace else. And
Mhm.
I was also thinking too, like, as parents and being home, and if we're working, making sure that we're really making them do recess, right? I mean, there's a whole reason why you have recess at school, right? The kids need to move. They need to get that energy out. And I think it would be easy, I know, as a working parent, if I'm busy working and I'm on calls and stuff, to just kind of let that recess time go and not make it as intentional as maybe it should be.
Absolutely.
And that's probably where, like, having a clock or a timer can be really
Mhm.
helpful, and maybe make it a little less stressful for us parents, because
I love that idea, and teaching them how to use it even starting now. That is a great idea. I was thinking the same thing for my own kids. And then I purchased some slides on Teachers Pay Teachers to put my objectives, and it has a built-in timer in the screen. So they could
very cool.
Like, we have 3 minutes left, I can go get a drink, or we have 5 minutes left, I can go to the bathroom. So whatever it is. So yeah, I do love the timer idea. That's really great.
Yeah.
That's also like working in a little reward system for you.
Yeah.
Okay, if I get this done, if I stick with it, then I'm going to have a little bit of time, left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
I would say too, like, making sure you've got a place, whether it's a bulletin board or even just hanging it straight on the wall, where you've got your schedule and any other important information. Because I don't know about your households, but I'm anticipating here in mine that, you know, sometimes Mark's going to take the heavy load some days, and some days I'll take the heavy load, and we may even bring in additional help from the outside, or my daughter will help out. And kind of having a place where that's posted and clear, so it's not stressful for any of us, and we all know what the expectations are.
And I love that idea. And everybody will get the teacher's schedule at back to school night. So that would be wonderful to go over it with them, you know, maybe even over breakfast. And then we're going to go over it with them again at the beginning of the day during class meetings. So the more that they hear it and the more they get into that routine and know what to expect, it'll feel just like school.
Great. Awesome. I also think lighting is another important one. Just making sure that they have enough light to see their work, and that they can also be seen on the Zoom. Because if the room's too dark or the space is too dark, you know, then that makes it harder, I think, for you all as teachers to connect, right? When you're just looking at like a dark space.
It's very hard, because we still do a lot of, you know, if you agree, give an air high five. You know, we're still doing all of those things to engage them and keep the momentum during the lessons. And so for us to see, you know, I need to see them really and engage with them to know that they're learning, and for them to be able to raise their hand if they have a question, or I can tell in the expression on their face, they're like,
right.
I'm seeing a couple people that look like they might not understand. Let's go over that again. You know, so it is really important.
Yeah. And I think too, you know, I think about, remember the schools they built in the 70s that were like, it was that open classroom concept, yet like, for as much as they cared about having these open classrooms, there were no windows in those buildings. And now they build, you know, school buildings with windows, because they understand that natural light is beneficial to all of us, right? So I would say too, not to be afraid of like having your kid in an area where there's some natural light. I think there's benefit to that. Obviously, you know, here I'm going to throw in my window treatment stuff, but you know, obviously if it's a room you don't usually use, that maybe you don't have as much control over the light, you may find that you need that. I'm getting so many calls these days, like, I only ever used my home office for like a couple hours on the weekend, and now that I'm in it full time, I realize I'm getting blinded every afternoon. So I think, you know, figuring out how to leverage light to kind of help keep the space light and bright. And everybody likes working in a space that's bright. Like, I would say try not to put your kid in a closet if you don't have to, right? Because that natural light is beneficial to us all. And then one of the things you were saying that I think makes this last point even more important is, you know, if we're going to keep the Zoom open all day as they're working through their day, making sure your Wi-Fi strong enough, right?
Absolutely. That's a big one. I'm making a call this week to upgrade mine. Hopefully we'll do the trick. It was great all spring until like the last 2 weeks. And then nothing is more frustrating than when you can't share your screen and you've made this beautiful PowerPoint with embedded videos and you're like, you can't see that, really? You can't see that? I'm like, oh my gosh, why not? So, you know, that's for teachers too. So really checking, you guys could even do practice Zooms with each other and making sure you know, they feel comfortable. And then back to what you were saying, how sometimes when kids get called on during Zoom, it feels all eyes on you because you're looking at everyone's face. And in the classroom, you might be on the carpet looking at your teacher. So you're just looking at your teacher. So we'll do lots of things at the beginning of the year to build relationships, get to know students. They'll be sharing me bags just to make them as like way more comfortable than they were in the spring with speaking and being together. So
nice.
So technology is going to be huge because today I'm having huge technology issues. And I couldn't imagine you having, you know, 25 kids and having the technology issues that I myself have been dealing with today. Whereas my computer, for some reason, the camera is not working on my computer. So then I switch over to my iPad for the first time, and then that starts to die on me. So, you know, technology for the kids, but also making sure that they don't have sun glare also on their screens and things like that. They might not, you know, they might be doing it and not be saying, hey, Mom, I can't really see. And it's just because of the lighting. And then also headphones, because if you've got kids where there's others in the household and the TV's on and things like that are going on, then they're going to need some headphones or something to block out what's going around them.
Or if they have siblings and
that was a nice segue into our like to have. Lindsay, were there any other things that you felt like or have to have beyond what we had on that list there?
No, I really think
okay. Yeah. All right.
Oh,
so let's talk about.
I was told pencil sharpeners and erasers. I was told make sure that. Yeah, I was told make sure that they've got pencil sharpeners because that's always a big one.
That is an important one.
And and something we'll share with families, but I'll add that to my list of before you go to bed that night, make sure your Chromebook is charging, make sure your pencils are sharpened.
There you go.
Every night, I'm going to make sure my slides are ready and organized. So that's my job. That's their job.
That's awesome. I love that.
Great idea.
You know, one of the things as we think about like the nice to haves or the like to haves is, I wouldn't run out and spend all your money on the need to haves, right? Because I think that since this is also new to all of us, when we get into these first couple weeks, you know, after the first week or two, you may find there's something that wasn't on any of our lists, right? Or that you didn't think was important that all of a sudden has become more important now that we're starting to establish kind of a routine and a rhythm. So headphones with mics was one of them. And I put it on the like to have instead of the have to have, Lindsay, because I think it just depends on the house, right? So if you live in a house that's fairly quiet and there's one or two siblings and they can be pretty separated, then it's not a big deal. If you're in a house where everybody's kind of on calls all day and there's a lot of noise and you have a dog like mine that's barking right now that you can probably hear.
Little brothers and sisters running around.
Right. You may find that a headphone with the mics is more important and actually should be on your need to have list instead of your have to have list. We've talked a few times about organization stations, and we'll look at a few more things. I loved some of the stuff that Lindsay shared with us so far. Space outside of the room for recess, lunch, and breaks. I think just allowing them to move and not always be at the desks, you know, feeling tied to it is going to be important.
Yes.
Fun artwork and things to make the space special and theirs. We're already, you know, I was thinking about when we go in for open house, because my girls have always loved open house at the school, right? And one of their favorite things is to find their name on their desk, right? So like over the weekend, I've already had Emmy working on creating her own little nameplate for her desk and decorating it and making it really special so that she can put it on her desk and that can make it fun. So I think little things like that don't have to be expensive. They don't have to be extravagant. They don't have to be over the top, but just make that space feel a little more special for them, right?
I love that idea. Another one that you could add, oh, we're not to the end, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And again, know your kiddos, but some kids benefit from like fidget toys. And since they're going to be sitting a little bit more than they're used to.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Built-in breaks and things like that. But those gel, like sensory things to just kind of play with while they're listening. And of course, if it becomes a problem, you know, the teacher will reach out. So as long as they can still be engaged, but maybe they can even do that while they're reading a book, waiting for their guided reading book to be, or their guided reading group to be called. So just, you know, and maybe even sand timers. If your kiddo is too young to really figure out the digital thing, they can just flip a sand timer and they need to check on
That's a great idea.
And they've got a lot of them out right now in the stores. A lot of sand timers.
Awesome. Making a list for my
That's
book.
awesome.
Sand timers on it. Sand timer, plate. I love this. Pencil sharpener.
Yeah.
We're good. I'm feeling good.
And then we talked about flexible seating and lap desks. So I think, you know, having other places that they can sometimes sit and work from is valuable and beneficial. Because I know even for me, you know, I sit here. My husband stole my office, so I sit in the dining room all, you know, and then sometimes in the evening, if I want to get back on, like I move my laptop someplace else to sit and work because it gives me that break, right? And our kids are the same way, right? They probably need it more than we do. They need that break and that separation. So I love your ideas and thoughts about flexible seating and lap desks. I think those are great ideas.
Definitely not inexpensive, but parents might already have them at home. Many kids, and it can even be a reward that the parents give the kiddos on Friday. If you have a great week on Friday, you can use the bouncy ball, like the exercise ball as your chair.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
We use those kind of rewards in school. And even one of our third grade teachers, her entire room is flexible seating. So,
that's
just
awesome.
keeping those things in mind.
Yeah, I love that. Love it. All right. So organization. I know a lot of us have probably seen or have these carts. I think Michael's has them. You can get them off of Amazon. But these little carts, I mean, they're awesome. They do not take up a lot of space, but you can get a lot of stuff on them. And it can be kind of that one-stop shopping where your kid knows where to find all of their things and where to put them back at the end of the day. I'm a big fan of those, especially if you don't have like desks with drawers and stuff. I think those carts are just wonderful. Right. I also like this one. I think that's like a shoe holder, right?
Yeah, I use that at my last house for all the boys' art supplies. It is amazing.
Right? Because sometimes, you know, when if we're doubling up on space or whatever, getting stuff up off the floor, or if we only have a small desk space, you know, getting it off the top of our desk could be really beneficial and helpful there. And I thought that was a really fun, cute idea that Debbie found. I think these are those little bins you were talking about.
Yeah, those are like what Lindsay,
right?
when she pulled them out, I thought.
Those are fantastic. They don't take up a lot of space, super easy to organize. You know, it's grabbing one thing for one subject. I love that. Love it.
Now, Lindsay, will we want to try to have maybe like books or something, like, you know, other books or other resources that the kids can kind of easily get to during the school day?
I think so. In terms of everybody in Montgomery County, at least, is using Eureka. So in terms of the math books, they'll have a couple books, I believe, passed out when they get their new Chromebook. Nothing's set in stone. Please don't.
Right.
Give me if anything changes. So those will be handy and wonderful to put in one of those book bins down there. In terms of like just free reading book materials, I would recommend, if possible, and maybe you guys can even trade with some families, like make a basket and trade each week if you're not like going to the library frequently because of all of this craziness.
I love that idea, Lindsay.
Yeah, you don't
like doing baskets and like switching and trading with other families, so you can kind of switch up the reading materials. And
that's a fun idea.
There's going to be times when they are doing independent reading, and of course they can use the websites like Epic and Benchmark. But kids need to hold books and paper books, and I think it's really important. It will of course not be a requirement, but yes, I think it's very important.
If we'll put that on our like to have, right? If you can, we should we should set up. So those, bins would be nice too for putting some reading materials in. Something that you could put, if you have the space on the desk or the table, something where you could put all the pencils and pens that they can get to super easily. I think this is actually like a caddy that you use for knife, fork, and spoons. And you can put that
either that or a shower caddy for colleges.
Yeah.
I've got to tell you though, the roller, the one on the wheels, I saw, I think it was at Target, where they actually showed it where you could charge something on it as well. But that's something where you can actually break down their class space. If you're in a tight area, it's a great place, to keep their things, and you can break it down every night, put it away so they don't need to look at it, look at school, and then pull it out during the day again.
I love that.
So, but that was a great idea that I think it was Target that had a really neat one.
Yeah,
I was trying to find the exact one. This is on Wayfair, but this is just like, it hangs right on the wall.
Oh, nice.
Very cool.
So I was thinking more like the little the curtain rod where you hang like the little hanging bucket.
Yeah,
right.
Again, to get it off the ground. Maybe if they don't have a very big desk, because that, in the class, just like the classroom, the pencil boxes fly on the ground.
right.
And they won't have their friends there to help them pick it up, so it might not be as fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just
there's another website out there. It's I think it's OneThrive. I'll put it in the comments. But they have a whole system that you can put like a calendar, and you can mix and match the system. It's got the little buckets that you can put pencils and pens in. It's got a little cork board, and that again helps to get everything kind of off the table and onto the wall and have a organizational system.
This is the other one, just like kind of.
Oh, nice. With the little, that's fun. That's really fun.
Anything like that.
Yeah. I think this is a nice, and you can see in this workspace, they used one of those carts and then spread out the workspace.
I was talking about.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, if all of a sudden you're finding yourself in a position where you need a desk, there's several IKEA, I think the Container Store, several different places, Staples, you can do these different types of desks where they're drawer bottoms and then tops that kind of lay on the top of them, and those are so great, and they're easy, and they don't take up a ton of space. It can be as big or as small as you want or need it to be.
I love it.
And so that's nice. That provides some good space for learning. I thought this was interesting. I'm not sure I would squeeze 3 kids in, but
I thought it was a little tight.
But one of the things that I love about this is I think it shows how you can have a really effective space without taking up a lot of room, right? Like, I'm seeing a lot of people transforming their formal living rooms and dining rooms into work and school spaces because they don't use those rooms as much. And we certainly aren't having big dinner parties and stuff right now. So, but this would be, I think you could do something like that in your formal living room and not feel like you were taking over the entire room.
Right.
And you could probably, like I said, if you had more than 2 kids, maybe another table, but it's just it's a narrower table, and then they put stuff up and on the cart so that they would still have room to work without having to take up like that whole room, the calendar on the wall and some fun things and the lighting. I just thought they had a lot of really good elements in this picture that are important to a nice workspace for our kids without kind of taking over an entire room. If space is a challenge. A question for you, Lindsay, when we go into this next one, I've got a question for you with the little ones. How important is it or not? I mean, obviously we can make anything work, but is it for, when you go to school and you're little, you have little desks and little chairs. Like, how important is it to have smaller furniture for them versus, regular size things that you might already have at home?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think it's only a concern if your kiddo might have some fine motor concerns.
Okay.
Most other kiddos I find can adapt.
Okay.
sit up on their knees on their chair. Like the boys work at the island and don't have any problem. They're a little bit tall for their age. But I could see the little guys like kindergarten. Kindergarten's going to be the challenge with that, I would think, more than any other grade. Of course, that would be awesome to have. And again, IKEA has really inexpensive like plastic tables or small wooden ones. I don't want families to feel that they need to go buy all of this furniture.
Okay. Gotcha.
Because it can be really flexible with.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. What kind of seating?
So if you got something, or if you happen to have, I mean, I think a lot of us end up buying those little tables and chairs for our kids when they're little. If they're still little and you've got them, that would be a nice thing to use for their workspace, but it's not a have to have.
Of course. Yeah. Maybe.
Well, and like Lindsay said, they also like to work on the floor and have their lap desks. So, you know, that also gives them another area.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
This is a nice, like I liked this particular space. It's just a clean, easy, you can see all the things they need to get to are right there in front of them. Again, we're using things on the wall to get stuff up off the desk. There's reading materials and stuff. I thought a little bookcase like that, you know, and I think you can get those kinds of bookcases fairly inexpensively. Like those would be really nice to have nearby where you could put books and other things on them during the school day.
And I loved going back to you saying you could put their artwork on the, you know, in the room, in the space. I think having just a conversation with your kiddo, especially elementary age, they, you know, have such huge buy-in. Like, what do you want your special office to look like? And, you know, maybe you say, I'm only going to spend $50, or maybe, you know, $20, and they get to go pick flare pens. And, you know, last year, my best friend's daughter wanted a classroom for Christmas. Like all she wanted is and to decorate it, and she was in first grade. So I think just talking to them about, oh, I want a special chair, maybe trying to find them a cozy chair, let them pick one special thing and help design it is going to be increase that excitement for school this year.
That's such a great idea.
Lacking it. So just
and I would say too, with older kids, like don't underestimate how this may be impacting them and how important it might be to them as well. Because I was kind of taking for granted a little bit with my 13-year-old. She's very self-sufficient. She's really responsible. She's very organized. She was perfectly fine working at her desk in her room all last spring. But as we started to talk about this new school year and she's feeling a little bummed, she's going to be an 8th grader and her 8th grade year is going to start out at home. I realized that us creating a separate space in the home for her to work was really going to be important, and she wanted to be part of it more than I even realized, because I'm thinking she's 13 and doesn't really care. But she does. She really does. And I realized quickly in talking with her that we needed to get her out of her bedroom. Like she loves her desk in her bedroom and she loves her bedroom, but she wants that to be her space. You know, she wants to go up there and FaceTime with her friends and do things that 13-year-old girls do. And she wanted a separate space for her. So we're trying to figure out what that's going to look like right now. But, you know, I could see something just simple like this being just giving her a space in a different place, letting her pick something that makes it special. I love that idea. And getting her kind of involved. I think it doesn't matter what age they are. We can't underestimate that we're all kind of feeling the impact.
I think another big thing about the kids going, you know, what would you look forward to when you would be going to school? Meeting new friends, meeting new classmates, and, you know, having new friends. And I think another thing that's really important is to make sure that you're doing socialization, that you're having virtual play dates and things like that with some of your, you know, with some of these new students. And I'm saying as parents, making sure that the kids are still getting socialization as opposed to doing their schoolwork at, you know, at home and really not being able to do much else out after that. So if you can come up with, I know that one of the teachers I spoke to, she said it was important for her to get out there too. And they would have game night. You know, some of the teachers would get together and do game night, just so that they had the socialization when they weren't around anybody.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to be getting into wrap up here soon. So if you guys have questions, please do not hesitate to, you can unmute yourself and speak up, or you can put it into the chat and we'll make sure that those questions, but start getting your questions out now as we go into kind of wrapping up, because we're getting to the end of our hour. But how can I make this happen? And look, this little graphic with the coffee down here was by no accident, since we're doing coffee and curtains. But I mean, most important is to figure out where, right? Pick a spot, make it happen. You may not feel like it's the world's most amazing spot, but you're going to make it wonderful. Just find a spot that makes sense based on some of the things that we talked about. Make a list of the things that you need to have. These are your priority items. What do I need to get in place before the kids start school, and how can I get them engaged? And then your second list of things are going to be things that you like to have. And work on those after the priority items. And I think we've talked about this multiple times, but getting the kids involved in it, helping them get excited, whether they're 3 or they're 19, wherever they kind of fit in that spectrum, getting them involved in that process so that they can start to feel excited. Because all those things that we talked about on the first slide, the haircut, the new outfit, the this, the that, kind of doing all those traditions that you've got baked in. I mean, my 13, I've always, on the first day of school, made like a special homemade amazing dessert when they come home from school for their afternoon snack. And my oldest was like, "You're still going to do that, right?" Like
so
those traditions and things still really, really matter. So now we're just going to add a couple new traditions, right? They're going to make their own fun nameplates for their offices, and they're going to help create the space that they can really effectively learn in.
I love it.
Do we have any questions?
Let's see. Lindsay, can you see a difference? Hang on. Hold on. Can you see a difference when homeschool environment is, hang on. Can you see a difference when homeschool environment is not adequate for a child? Could desk space help?
So yes, just some things that I noticed in the spring. Again, we were only doing like 45 minutes, 5 days a week, and then 2 hours of office hours. So this is going to look very different. But so I feel that it's not fair to kind of compare what it looked like for those kiddos in the spring versus what we're going to have. But absolutely, you can tell. You can tell if they're engaged. You know, I had kiddos that if my kids were in their rooms would be doing the same thing. They had stuffed animals, singing emojis, twirling in chairs, getting up and, you know, kind of just doing something else. They just lost interest. So I feel like if a kiddo has their special office space and they're set and they're excited and we keep them engaged and we're praising them at home and we're praising them for school, you know, we can really make a difference. But yes, I think you can tell in them having their own space that's the same every day, that they know they're going to. They can't be late for their job. They have to be up and dressed and ready and at their desk just like they were going to school is going to be imperative.
I think kindergarten is going to be probably the toughest because, you know, these kids aren't used to knowing that they have to go and sit down.
Sure.
Let's see, any other ideas for boys versus girls? And I think that's a good one because I think that boys sometimes can be a bit more of a handful when it comes to school than maybe girls.
Absolutely. And I think this is where, you know, you can do your best to set it up. And like Rebecca said, be flexible, knowing that we're all going to be learning and changing things the first couple weeks. I know that I'll be checking in with my boys' teacher to see if because they're not going to be anywhere near me. Are they focused? Are they doing their job? Is their seat working for them? You know, so I think knowing our kids the way that we know them, I'm not going to put them in a spinning chair. I'm going to have something for them where I know they can sit comfortably and not fall off of it and not spin and things like that. So I do think.
Well, and maybe Lindsay, the fidget things you were talking about would be helpful because, you know, if they need to move, at least they can keep those fingers moving.
And Maria put in maybe a yoga ball chair.
Yes, I love that. That was a suggestion. I do not have one, but I'm going to order one on Amazon. They have most kids can handle just without having a stand, but if you have a K or first grader, they do have a stand that keeps it stabilized that might be more helpful.
Great.
But I have not met a child that doesn't love that ball. Doesn't love sitting on the ball.
Awesome.
I've had a few that bounced too much and needed reminders, but generally speaking, that was just something that kind of kept them grounded and kept their attention. And I think we're going to just be learning and trying new things as we need to, but don't hesitate to reach out to the teacher, and ask how things are going.
And saying that, I know that the teachers that I've spoken to, there's a couple of things, especially when you get to the older, the upper middle school and the high school. Make sure that ask your kids, I want to see your work, to make sure that they got their work done. Because from what I understand with the older kids, a lot of parents were finding out like a week later, no, that wasn't turned in. No, they didn't do this. So although the children have to handle, ask the teacher their questions and things like that, the parents still have to keep in close contact with the teachers just to make sure that things are getting done, that their work is getting turned in, and really that they're behaving.
Absolutely.
What other questions?
Right.
Any other questions? Well, it looks like we're probably going to wrap up then for today. Yeah. Lindsay, thank you so much. Yes. It was great having you on. Let's see. Marilee said, thank you. Great and helpful tips.
Great.
Yeah, we've got several other people that of course, now I can't get to it again. Maria said, wonderful, thank you. Kelly said, thanks. So, yeah, we really appreciate everybody joining us. Rebecca and I are on the 2nd and 4th Mondays at noon of every month. And we're talking about our next one is actually going to be working from home. So we did the work, schooling from home, and in 2 weeks, it's going to be working from home. We also have different things about window treatments, but we're doing, lifestyle and just a lot of different topics. If you can't catch us, please look for us, Coffee and Curtains, on YouTube, and join us there as well.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone. And Lindsay, thank you for being our special guest today.
I loved it. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.